What's up guys, Andre here, and today we're going to be rebuilding this internal tool from Resolute using Tailwind CSS. Now this is another amazing creation by Steve Sugar, so definitely watch his video if you haven't already seen it yet. I particularly like this one because it's an internal tool. I feel like there are a lot of people out there who are working on internal tools that have a horrible user experience. So here's the finished product, which we will be building from scratch. There's a lot of UI components involved in this design, so I didn't spend the time to make it responsive. I can also argue the fact that it's an internal tool, so there's a high chance that it's primarily used on desktop computers only at the company. That's just my way of saying I was too lazy to make it responsive. There's a lot going on here, so let's get started. If you want installation instructions for Tailwind, check out the first video in this series. Also, I always mention this, but just keep in mind that I've already built this, so I'm just referring to my other monitor where I'm looking at the class names and everything I've already decided. Okay, so I'm in my code now, and here is the blank page for it. Alright, I like to start with the background color and the fonts. So the background color is a very light gray, and the font is just the default system font, which Steve decided on in his video. So let's go ahead and start with that. So body, class is BG gray lighter, font sans. Tailwind has a default font stack, which is called font sans, and it's anti-alias it. And I'm also going to give it a default text color of text gray darker. Let's see how that looks. Okay. Let's start with the top bar up here. So it looks to me that this is a certain width. It's about, 228 pixels, and the rest spans across the rest of the viewport. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, into my custom CSS here, so resolute.css. I'm going to make a new class called WLeft, so width left, and I'm going to give it a width of 225. Okay. Okay, back to our markup. I'm going to make two sections here. Actually, let's just make a section called top bar. I'm going to close that. And that's going to be flex, item center, padding of 4, and let's give it a BG blue. And then the left side is going to be that new class we just made, so WLeft. And let's give it a padding left of 4. This is where the logo is going to go, but let's just put some text in there for now. And for the other section, let's give it a width full. And let's give it a padding right of 4. And let's just put some text in there as well. Alright, see how that looks. Okay, that looks not good, but it's what we want. I think I'm going to change this to text gray darkest instead of darker. Darkest. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put the icon in. As you see here, I already have all the SVGs extracted. So the logo is right here. Just going to grab this and put it in there, right here. And see how that looks. Okay. Let me just re-indent this. And let me just give this a class name. So I can just close it and I can see what's going on. Okay. I really want to make this split screen, but the design is too wide, so I don't think it would work out too well. So you'll have to deal with me jumping back and forth between the code and the design and the browser. Okay, so I'm going to define some custom colors for this blue here. So we have the primary blue here for the Resolute brand. We have a darker blue here, which was used, I think, here and maybe somewhere else. And then I think that's it. Okay, so I'm just going to grab custom colors from my already finished product. Go to our code, go to Tailwind JS, go to blues. So I'm just going to paste it in here. So I have one for the main one for the darker one, and this icon one is for these icon colors over here. It's not really blue, but that's what I have it named in my other project, so I'll stick with that. And now I'm going to change this blue. Did I use blue? Yeah, to BG Blue Resolute. Okay, cool. All right, now let's work on the search bar. Okay, so after this, right here, okay. So input type is text, class is, it's full. I don't think I need that with full. I don't know. Actually, I do. PY4, PX4, padding left of 10. I think I have a custom size for 10 in there from previous videos. Text small, BG gray lighter, border blue resolute, dark, outline 0, and let's give it a placeholder. Search by email, property address, I should just copy this, phone number, or contract name. All right, let's see how this looks. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We just have to give it the icon. Okay, so start the icon here. So we're gonna give it an absolute positioning. We're gonna pin it to the top. We're gonna make a flex box. We're gonna center it. We're gonna give it some padding so it matches the padding in this field. Give it some padding on the left and right, and let's give it that color, and I'm gonna drop a SVG in here. So which one is it? It is icon search, this one. Grab that and paste that in, and let's see how that looks. Okay, so we have to make the container above it relative. So let's make it relative, and that should push it down. It doesn't. Sorry, not that one. This one. Let's just put it here. Does that push it down? It does. Cool. All right, so this color, I don't think it's getting the right color. It should be this color. let me show you. So say it was green. See, it's not getting that green. So to do that, we have to put the fill current, is it underscore? No, it's dash, class on the actual SVG, and it's going to inherit the color on the parent. So now it should be green, and it is. Cool. So let's change it back to whatever it was before, which was text gray, darker. Cool. Okay, what's next? Okay, so it looks like we have 3 columns here. This we already defined the width for. This, actually there's 2 sections here. There's this breadcrumb section, but this part underneath it is actually a container, and this part should be centered within the browser. So we'll make sure to do that, and then we have this right sidebar over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and lay that out. So I'm going to make a new container here. Let's call it 3 columns. Again, I'm just naming this so I can close it and I can see it when I'm scrolling through my document. And let's make sure it's flexbox. And let's start with the left sidebar. Let's call it left sidebar. And we'll give it that W left. We just made it. We used it for the top bar. And let's see how that looks. Let me just put some text in here. And let me just close this. All right, see how it looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's look at the design for a sec. So there's a subtle border here. It's a light gray, and it's 2 pixels, I think. So let's go ahead and do that. So border R2 for 2 pixels, border gray light, and min H screen is going to give it a minimum height of 100% of the viewport height, just so that line goes across the whole browser. And it's going to give it some padding on the top. See how that looks? And there's the border, and we are looking good. This doesn't look like it's lining up with this line, and it should. Let's go into that. Where is it? I think if I add flex 1, that should fix that issue. And it does. Cool. Okay. Now for this middle section, let's go ahead and work on that. So, and the left sidebar. Let's go ahead and start the middle one. Let's call it a middle column. And we're going to give it a width of 3/5. And it's flex 1 as well. And let me just close that. And see how that looks. Okay, that's spanning the entire width because we haven't done the right sidebar yet. So let's go ahead and do that. So the right sidebar is around 322-ish pixels. So let's go ahead and define that. Okay, so right here, right sidebar. Let's give it W right, and it's white. There's also a shadow on it. So let's see how that looks. Actually, it's not going to work yet because we haven't defined that W right. Let's go ahead and do that. So W right with 320. I have it defined as 320 in my finished product, so we'll stick with that. All right, see how it looks? And it looks pretty good. We'll work on the container part, so this part later on once we get there. Now let's work on this menu. So yeah, I'll just do one and then I'll just edit in the rest since it's pretty repetitive. Okay. So back up to our left sidebar here. Let's go ahead and start that. Okay, I'm going to make an unordered list. I'm going to reset it. Make it small. There's a border bottom of 2 and border gray light. And the first item, we're going to give it flex, item center, py1, padding left of 4, and a margin bottom of 1. And within that, this is going to be where the SVG is. It's going to make a container for the SVG as a padding right of 2 and text blue Resolute icon. So that custom class we have. And SVG goes here. We'll put that there in a second. And then the next part is the dashboard. Actually, just make it an anchor tag. Dashboard. Just give it some class. A class. Text gray darker and hover text black. All right, see how it looks. And it looks pretty bad. Oh, that's just because the text should be in SVG. And let me just reset the anchor links. Let me take a look at the design. Okay, so the links are this blue color over here, and they're not underlined. So let's go ahead and fix that. So text decoration none, and I'm going to apply text color blue resolute. Sorry, text blue resolute. Okay, now let's drop that dashboard SVG right here, and let's give it that class of fill current. So it has the right color, and now that looks pretty good. The padding is a bit too much here. I think I made a typo somewhere. Yes, I did. It's supposed to be list reset, not list rest. So list reset. That should reset that padding. Okay, so that's a good padding. All right, so I'm just going to edit in the rest of them, and I'll see you when that's done. Okay, so that's done, but if you look at the design, we have an active state on this properties one, which has a few extra styles associated with it. So there's a white background, there is a blue color on the icon, and there's a blue border accent on the left. So let's go ahead and change that. So let's change the icon color first. So this would just be text blue resolute. See if that works. Okay. Now let's give it a background of white. So we have to do that on the actual LI. So BG white. See that does okay. Now let's give it that left accent border. So border L 4 pixels and border blue Resolute. Okay, so that worked. But now you see, since we have that 4 pixel border on the left, it pushed the icon to the left. So let's give it a negative margin of 4 pixels so it lines up with everything else. So I'm just going to define a custom class for that. So fix, I think it's on this div. Is it on this div? Yeah, it is. Okay, so fix negative margin. And that's just going to have fix negative margin, margin left, negative 4 pixels. Okay. And there you go. It moved it over to the left. Cool. Okay, now let's work on the next section. I think I'll do the breadcrumb section here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here in our middle column, let's make a new section for breadcrumbs. Let me just make sure I end that. Okay. Let's give these some classes. Text small, some padding, a border bottom of 2, border gray light, and a margin. Alright, so first one should be contacts. Yeah, I should make this a unordered list, but this is how I have it in my other projects, so I'll just stick with that. Okay. Cool. And for the separators, if you look at the design, they're just greater than signs, and you can go ahead and use greater than signs if you like, but I actually used an SVG. So let me just make a container for that. I'll put that in later. I'll just put the actual greater than sign, see if that, yeah. Just do the next one. Actually, it's the same thing. Let's grab that. And what is that one? It's Bart Simpson. And I'm just going to grab this. Cool. And the last one is, let's grab this again. Should be properties. But this one doesn't have an anchor tag since it's the last one. Okay, see how it looks? Looks pretty good. And now I'm just going to replace these with SVGs. Oops. Sorry. And I think I have it as icon breadcrumb. Paste that in. Cool. And same for this one. Alright, that looks better. Okay, now let's work on this section with the container and with most of the content. Okay, so, and breadcrumbs there. Let's make a new section for that container. So I'm going to give it some padding on the left and the right, and I'm going to give it a container. Now I'm not going to use a default container because that's too wide. So I'm going to make a new one called Container Resolute. And I'm going to center that. Let me just put some text in here. And then I'll define this in our custom CSS. So container resolute right here. I'll put it down here. And I'm going to give it a max width of 1000 pixels. And let's see how that looks. And it looks pretty good. If you see, when we resize, it gets to a certain point, but I have some padding here, which gives it some breathing room if it gets to smaller screens. Cool. Okay, what's first? We have this sort of heading section. So let's go ahead and make something for that. Okay. So let's call it heading section. It's going to be flex, it's going to be item center, give it a margin bottom of 1. Let me just end that. And this is going to be the container for the house icon, the home icon. So PR2, text, blue, resolute. And the SVG is the icon home, this one. Paste that in, give it a class of fill current, and then let's put an H1, font normal, text 3XL, give it a margin right. And this one should be, just grab it, just some sort of code. And see how it looks. Okay, it looks good. And now let's just give it this active sort of indicator. Let's make another container. Rounded, full, blue, resolute, dark, text white, PX3, padding YF1, smaller text, it's uppercase, and let's give it some character spacing, tracking wide, active. Why didn't it show? Because that's a typo, and that should be text blue. Okay, sorry, it should be BG blue. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Actually, it should be bold, so let's make it bold. Font bold. Okay. All right, what's next? Okay, so we have these cards over here, which occurs for the rest of this section. So let's go ahead and define those. So after the heading section, let's go ahead and make that card. So I'm gonna name it card. This one is details. So let's name it card details. BG white, border gray light, with a border top of 4 pixels. It's rounded, rounded, PX4, PY6, and let's give it a margin bottom of 8. And let me just put some text in there to see how it looks. Okay, it looks pretty good. Let's give this heading section a margin bottom. So heading section, yeah, let's give it more than 1. Okay. So we need to change the accent color of this top border. Unfortunately, there's no utility in Tailwind for that, so we have to make our own. So let's go ahead and go into, actually let's define it here first. Let's name it border T blue Resolute. And I'm just going to copy the colors from my other project and go into our Resolute and paste it down here. I'm going to paste all of them, not just the blue, but the red and the yellow. And we have to make them important so they override the other styles. And there you go. We have that accent color. I think I forgot some details here. I didn't add this stuff in there. All right, let me just add that in quickly. That's why it was only 1. Okay, so it's just give it a text small, text gray darker, and margin bottom of 4. It's just 1, 2, 3 Main Street, Galveston, Texas 77555. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, now for the card. So this section is 1/3 and the rest is 2/3. So let's go ahead and do that for our card. Oops. Okay. So in here, let's do flex. And then width 1/3. And let's give it some padding on the right of 4. And let's give it some text. And then 2/3. 2/3, and let's give it padding on the left of 8. And let's give it some text. And that looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to start with this. Start with H2. Let's make it large. Let's make it semi-bold. Let's give it a margin bottom of 4. And that one is details. And underneath that, let's give it a paragraph. Let's make it black. Let's make it small. Let's give it a line height. Let's give it a margin bottom. And let's just grab this. Let me grab both actually, but I'll separate it into paragraphs. That should be normal. Paste that in. Just gonna cut this. See how that looks. Okay, looks good. Let's paste this in, grab this. And grab that. Cool. And Bart Simpson should be a link. Just wrap this in an anchor tag, and we are good. Okay, what's next? Okay, so this form is next. Let's go ahead and work on that. So in here, Let's give it flex. Let's make it wrappable. And let's make it width of 1/2. Padding right of 4. And margin bottom of 6. And I'm just gonna grab the label and the input, and there's already some styles associated with that, and that looks pretty good, and a value as well. I am going to also grab the other half, so ends there, and here's the other one. See how that looks? Okay, it looks pretty good. And to save time, I'm just going to do the rest of them behind the scenes. This one is just, it's not exactly in thirds, but in my project, I'll just make it thirds. Cool. Okay, so this is done now. It's looking pretty good. I also added the next card, but I didn't fill in this section yet because there is a table here, and we'll go through that together. So I don't know about you, but tables are a kind of a pain in the ass to style. So I actually made a plugin for Tailwind that is Bootstrap style tables for Tailwind CSS. And all it does is basically rip the tables from Bootstrap and makes all those styles available within Tailwind. And luckily for me, Steve actually styled them pretty similarly to Bootstrap tables. If you look at how this looks, and if you look at the default table, it's almost the same. So let's go ahead and pull in my plugin, and we'll work with that. So just npm install. I need to stop this. Okay, that's done. Let me just run my watcher again. Okay, so how do we use this? We can just use it like this, just require it in and call it as a function, and then we can just use Bootstrap like it's installed in our project. So let's go to Tailwind, and let's go to plugins, and it's just required in the bottom here. Actually, there's some options I made available just so it's a bit easier to override some of the styles. So let me copy that one instead. And these ones I'm going to leave as default, but for the cell padding, I'm going to make it 1 rem, just a bit more than default. And now, if we just grab this, which is ripped from the Bootstrap docs, we should get a table that looks like that. So back to here, if you just paste that in, just indent that, there should be a decent looking table in our project. And there is. Cool. So a few things I want to change based on the design. So there's no top border, and there is a bottom border. So I just have to override some styles, which I'm just going to paste in for my other project. And it's just these two. It's not much. It's just this, and that will give us what we want. So there we go. Now we got rid of that top one, and we added a bottom one. And this is not spanning across the whole row because I think these are H's, table headings, or whatever that stands for. So yeah, let's just change these to TDs and we should be good. Just take this. There's only 3, right? Okay. So let's just make it TD. And let's make sure we change this. And now it spans the whole row. Cool. Okay, so there's only 2 rows here, and there's 4 columns. So we have 4 columns, and we only need 2 rows. So let's take the third one out. And we don't need this, and this. See how that looks? Okay. What else? There's checkboxes in those, so let's just drop a checkbox in there. I'm not going to style it like this because checkboxes are a pain in the ass to style as well. So I'm just going to leave it default. So input type equals checkbox. I think that's all I need. Grab that and let's just put it in here as well. Sorry, that doesn't go there. That's the headings. Should go in here. See if that works. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, let's start with the note. Okay, let's change this first. Year flag notes. Year flag notes. Okay. Ongoing 2017. Ongoing 2017. And I'm going to start with the notes since those are a bit easier. So for this one, I'm just going to paste the formatting in there just to save some time. Just basic text. And that is the wrong section. Should be in the next one here. Okay, looks pretty good. And I'll paste the other one in too. Okay, so that looks pretty good. What is this? Okay, so I'm just going to use Flexbox here. I'm going to use SVG for this dot, and that should work. Back to our code. So in here, I'm just going to do flex. This is the container for the SVG. And then text red, font bold, litigation. Did I spell that right? Litigation. Okay. Okay, looks pretty good. Let me just fill in the other one first, and then I'll put the SVG in there. I'm just going to grab this. Right here. What's the other one called? The second one's litigation. The first one is Harvey. Okay. And the icon is, what is it, dot? Yeah, it's just dot, I think. Okay, let's grab this again, put it in here, and that should be good. And everything is looking pretty good. It looks pretty close to our design over here. Now let's work on this show to older flag section. So table ends there. Let's give it a new div, giving it padding of 2, background of gray, lighter, and margin bottom of 4. And I'm just going to make an anchor tag. Text really small. Let's make it bold. Let's make it gray dark. Show to older flags. And see how that looks. Okay, it looks pretty good, except there's some margin bottom on the table. I mean, there's some, yeah, I think we can overwrite that if we just do that. And yep, that works. Okay, what's next? And this apply new flag. Okay. Let's make a section for it. And it's going to make an anchor tag again. It's uppercase. Let's make the character spacing wider. Bold. Let's make it small. Let's make it black. And usually I'd use an SVG here, but we're getting high on time, so I'll just do this. Okay, see how that looks? Looks pretty good. Alright, what's next? Okay, this section is pretty much the same as this. The table is a bit different, but it just has one less column and one less row, and everything else is almost the same. This is a different color. So I'm just going to do this behind the scenes, and then we'll work on this after. Cool. Okay, so we're back. I added this card and I added the beginnings of this card. So let's go ahead and work on this section over here. Okay, so first is this alert box. So it's pretty much like the cards we have here, except it's contained within this 2/3 width. So let's go into our code, and I'm just going to grab this, and let's see how that looks. Make sure we close that div, and let me just put some text in here. And yeah, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to change this to border T, I think it was yellow I named it. Yeah, border T yellow. Okay. And let's go ahead and add that icon and just change some of the padding in there. Let's call it card alert. Actually, it's not background white, it's background yellow lightest. If you look at the design, there's a white background and the text is a different color as well. So the text is yellow darker, and these are just default Tailwind colors. Okay, let's also make it flex because we need that icon in there. So let's go ahead and make a container for that icon, give it a margin right, and I am going to drop the icon exclamation in there. So this one, drop that in there, add a fill current. Okay, looks pretty good. And I'm just going to paste in the alert message here. I just changed the text and the line height and see how it looks. Okay, the padding top is a bit much for me. So let's change it to PY4. Okay. Let's make it even smaller. Let's make it PY2. Okay, sorry, I was changing the wrong thing. Let's leave that at 6. And let's change this one actually, PY4. Okay, that looks better. Okay, what's next? So we have this form over here. So let's go ahead and work on that. Okay, so after this, we can start a new form. Just give it that. And let's give it a new section. And let me just do one quickly and then I'll paste in the rest. Reason, class equals block, text gray darkest, text base, margin bottom of 2, and that's reason. Input ID equals text. Sorry, type equals text, ID equals reason, class width full, text base, BG gray lightest, border gray light, text gray darkest, no outline, it's rounded, and some padding. And hopefully that looks okay. And it does. Okay, so I'm just going to paste in the rest behind the scenes, including these. It's not too difficult to do these, and I'm going to just finish off this whole section. Okay, so I just finished that off, and here's how it looks. And there's one section left. It is this right sidebar. So let's go ahead and start with this section over here. Okay, into our code. So right here, let's make a new one called, has to be flex, item center, justify between, so I can get those two things on the left and the right. Let's give a padding 4, margin bottom of 2. So the first item is this. It's just notes. And then the second item is a button, which I am going to paste in because I'm starting to go very high on time. Okay, and that looks pretty good. There's a hover state on the button as well. Okay, what's next? So this tab section, let's go ahead and work on that. Okay, so from here, I should have used an unordered list, but that's okay. We'll just stick with divs, which is what I have here. Okay, so div.flex, item center, justify between, text small, font semi-bold, there's a border, border gray light, px4, margin bottom 4. Okay, and this is going to have 3 sections, these 3 right here. So the first one is the selected one. So we're going to have text gray darkest. So this one's going to be darkest, and these ones will just be dark. And this one has a border blue because it's the selected one, and it has a padding bottom of 4. So this one's notes only. See how that looks. Okay, it looks pretty good. I think I want that thicker. Yeah, it should be 4 pixels. Yeah, that looks good. And let me just duplicate these, but these ones will be just white. And this one's called audits only, and this one's called everything. See how that looks? Okay. I think I typed something in incorrectly. Justify. There you go. Now it's evenly spaced. Again, these probably should be links, but that's okay. We'll just leave it. What's next? So it's just this section over here. Again, I'll do one quickly, and then I'll paste the other one in. So there's another icon here, and there's 2 sections of text. Okay, so flex, some padding, some margin. This is the container for the SVG, text blue Resolute icon, and some margin right. What is this? SVG. I think it's this one, icon edit. Let's grab that, paste that in, give it a class, fill current. Okay. And then the next section is the text, which I am going to lazily paste in. It's just basic formatting of text like we've been doing. So let's see how that looks. Yep, that looks pretty good. And like I said, I'm just going to paste the other one in. So there you go. It's completed, and let's go over the final design. Everything is looking pretty clean and pretty close to the original that we have here. Cool. So this is where I would spend time and make it responsive. But like I said, for reasons in the beginning of this video, I'm not going to do that. And also, it's getting quite long. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.